And joining us now, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. Jen, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me on this morning.
President Biden has taken to asking critics of his COVID relief bill, what would you cut? The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says that more than 1/3 of the total bill, $700 billion, would not be spent this year, but would be spent between 2022 and 2031. So how does that qualify as COVID relief?
Well, first, Chris, the focus of the package is getting direct checks to the American people, getting vaccines in the arms of Americans, and ensuring that people who need help at this very difficult time can get it. But people also have to plan. Schools have to plan to reopen. They need to do budgetary planning over the course of years. Businesses need to do that as well. So this package is meant to, of course, provide immediate direct relief, but also provide a bridge to help us all get through this crisis.
But let's take one specific area that you just mentioned, schools. The bill would give $170 billion to schools from elementary through college, but the CBO projects that 95% of that money, again, won't be spent this year, but will be spent from 2022 through 2028. And let me drill down even further. $480 million of the COVID relief bill, according to the CBO, would go to the arts, humanities, museums, libraries. Again, what does that have to do with emergency COVID relief and getting kids back into school this year?
Well, first of all, the 90% of this package goes to address the twin crises we're facing right now, Chris, which is getting the pandemic under control and helping the American people go back to work, helping them get the relief they need to get through this period of time. Schools are like businesses, Chris. They need to budgetary plan over a period of time. Some have to front load changes, whether it's to their facilities or ensuring that if they have to hire additional teachers or bus drivers at this point in time to ensure they can do safe social distancing. Well, they have to plan over the period of time. I'm sure I don't want my kids to be going to school where they have to fire teachers next year or won't have to be able to do the facility upgrades, I should say, necessary in order to ensure they're going to school safely. That's exactly what is included in this package.
Let me turn to another subject about the bill. Now that the Senate parliamentarian has ruled that the $15 minimum wage does not qualify under the budget rules, some Senate Democrats are talking about either using tax incentives or tax penalties to get corporations and small businesses to go there as part of the COVID relief bill. Does the president support that?
Well, I think you're referring to Senator Sanders' proposal, Chris, and we have not yet reviewed that proposal. But the president supports exactly what Senator Sanders does, which is increasing the minimum wage for the American people, for workers who are just trying to make ends meet, and he thinks that's long overdue. We're going to have to spend the next several days or even weeks figuring out what the best path forward is, but he's committed to doing that.
You also had a busy week in foreign policy, and I want to talk about that. During the campaign, candidate Biden said that he promised to crack down on Saudi Arabia for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Here he is.
We were going to, in fact, make them pay the price and make them, in fact, the pariah that they are. There's very little social redeeming value in the present government in Saudi Arabia.
And on Friday, U.S. intelligence agencies released this report. We assess that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman approved an operation in Istanbul, Turkey, to capture or kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. A couple of questions, Jen. Does the president still believe, as he did back in November of 2019, that the Crown Prince was personally responsible, personally ordered the murder of Jamal Khashoggi? And if he does, why didn't he move to act against MBS personally?
Well, the president believes this was a horrific crime, and what we saw outlined in the unclassified report released, as you referenced, Chris, is confirmation of the details of this crime, some that we've known for some time. And the president was an advocate for releasing that and abiding by our legal obligations. Let me be very clear, though. We took specific actions on Friday. Our objective is to recalibrate our relationship. We've already taken steps to do that, make sure it's not a continuation of the last 4 years, and prevent the horrific act that happened to journalist Jamal Khashoggi from ever happening again. That's why we put sanctions through the Treasury Department on the deputy head of the Intelligence Department. Why we under the Magnitsky Act designated the Saudi intelligence forces. Why we've taken very specific steps, Chris, to make sure we're sending a clear message to the world, and that's what we announced on Friday.
But it isn't a clear message. In 2019, the president in a Democratic debate said that he believed that MBS, the Crown Prince, personally ordered the murder of Khashoggi. That's what his intelligence report says. I'm asking you now, does he personally believe that MBS ordered the assassination of Khashoggi? And if he does, why not penalize him? He sanctions a bunch of other people. He doesn't sanction the Crown Prince.
Well, first, let me be clear that behind the scenes, there are a range of diplomatic conversations that make absolutely clear to the Saudis and to others around the world that this is going to be a different kind of relationship. And our actions make that absolutely clear as well, Chris. Historically, though, as you all know, you've been covering these issues for some time. The United States has not historically sanctioned the leaders of countries where we have diplomatic relations, or even some where we don't have diplomatic relations. We understand that's a bar some are holding this to, but our objective here from the government, from the Biden administration, is preventing this from ever happening again. I should also note we also announced the Khashoggi rule, which gives power to the Secretary of State to be able to prevent foreigners who have shown that they are going to threaten dissidents or journalists from traveling on a visa to the United States. This is a global issue, and one we're going to be clear in sending a message about, both privately and publicly, Chris.
I'm running out of time, and I got a couple of questions I really need to ask you. The president also ordered a military strike in eastern Syria this week against Iranian-backed militias. Is he sending a message that there is a link between an Iran nuclear deal and Iran's activities in the region, that there can't be an agreement, there can't be successful diplomacy at the same time that Iranian-backed forces are attacking U.S. personnel?
Chris, he's sending an unambiguous message that he's going to protect our men and women serving and our coalition forces. And that's exactly what he did with this strike. In terms of the Iranian nuclear deal, we believe that the best path is a diplomatic path forward. We want to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. That's in our national interest. That's in the global national interest. Where that sits now is we're waiting, the Europeans are waiting to hear back from the Iranians on whether they will sit at the table and have that discussion. But the strike this week was specifically about responding to threats and attacks that were threatening our troops and our men and women serving overseas.
The president, or rather the Biden administration this week reopened a migrant facility for children that was used under President Trump, and that unleashed a storm of criticism. As you know, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "This is not okay, never has been okay, never will be okay, no matter the administration or party." Now, you have distinguished between what you admit you are doing and what the Trump administration is doing. I'm asking you a different question, though. Isn't the Biden administration contributing to this crisis by reversing the Trump policy, which called for immediately returning migrant children who cross the country, unaccompanied children who cross the border by themselves? Their Border Patrol officials are saying that you are creating a surge, and that by May we could see a bigger surge than we saw during the worst moments of the 2019 crisis on the border.
Well, Chris, the vast majority of families and adults are turned away at the border. This is not the time to come, and we have been very clear about that. But our approach from the Biden administration is that we think the most humane step we can take here is to have these children, unaccompanied, kids under 18, not send them back, to take a treacherous path forward. This is a difficult choice, but that's one that we felt was the right one, the most humane one, because these are kids. They're fleeing prosecution. They're fleeing difficult circumstances in their country, and our objective is to treat them humanely and to keep them safe. And the reason, I should say, that we opened this facility is because of COVID, Chris, as you know, and that's why it's open, because we want to keep these kids safe, including at a time where we're facing a pandemic.
But aren't you, by changing the policy, aren't you encouraging some of these young people to come, which means you're going to have a bigger crisis on the border?
Well, Chris, we've been unambiguous and being clear in the region. This is not the time to come. And this is the difficult choice for everyone. But as a mother, as a parent, I'm not going to support, nor would the president, sending kids under 18, some at the age of 11, 12, 13, back on a treacherous trip across the border to face persecution and difficult circumstances in their country. These kids are coming alone, and this is the choice we've made because we feel it's humane and we feel it's safe. The vast majority of any family that's coming together, any adult that's coming, are turned away at the border because we have not had time to put in place comprehensive immigration policies yet at this point in time.
Finally, when will the White House pull the nomination of Neera Tanden to be the budget director?
Well, Chris, we remain committed to fighting our hearts out for Neera Tanden. We believe she is the right person. She's qualified, she's experienced to lead the budget department. She brings unique experience as somebody who's lived through benefiting from a number of these programs, and she's worked on these issues for decades across the aisle. So we're going to keep fighting for it. We knew that some of these fights would be difficult, and this is certainly one of them, but she's going to have a number of continued engagements this week, and we are certainly hopeful we can get it across the finish line.
Jen, there was lots to talk to you about. You guys made a lot of news this week. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. Always good to talk with you.
You too.